Hi there. I have a baby. Are you feeling surprised? I was feeling surprised too. This is Ezra Perkins, and he is almost 3 weeks old now. And he came 6 weeks early, so we were very surprised ourselves. I just wanted to take a few minutes to share with you all the story of Ezra's birth because it was kind of a funny story. So, a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago to be specific, it was my husband and I's 10-year anniversary, and so we decided to go to the Oregon coast for basically just like a one-night getaway. And we were going to go on our anniversary, and then my husband got sick a few days before, and so I decided to postpone our trip a week because I didn't want him to be sick on our anniversary trip. I did not think that would be fun. I felt like it would ruin the trip. So I called the hotel, they let me reschedule. We rescheduled the trip for a week later, and we had our anniversary at home, and it was really nice. Unfortunately, my husband wasn't that sick, so we didn't have to reschedule, but oh well. So a week later, we head to the coast on a Thursday, and we had a really nice Thursday. We went relatively early in the morning, so we had like all day Thursday there. Just like spent some time walking on the beach, went to some restaurants, ate some good food. It was just a great time. Went back to the hotel, and then the next morning we got up and we were getting ready for breakfast, deciding where we were gonna go. I started feeling like, I was just having like lots of Braxton Hicks contractions, which if you're not familiar, these are like false labor contractions. And normally you have them throughout like the entire second half of your pregnancy. At least that's how it always has been for me. So I didn't really think that much of it, but I just wasn't feeling that great. And my husband was like, "Are you okay? Like, is something the matter?" And I was like, I don't know, the Braxton Hicks, they're just like hurting a little more than normal. But like I said, I didn't think that much of it because they weren't hurting that much and they didn't seem like they were getting closer together or anything like that. But after a little bit, like a few more minutes, I was like, actually, they kind of hurt and they are kind of close together. We decided that we would go over to the hospital just to make sure that I wasn't actually going into labor, especially because at that point in time, I was only 34 weeks pregnant. So I wasn't supposed to have a baby for another 6 weeks. Spoiler alert. Anyway, so if I was going into labor, I wanted them to try to stop it. So we headed over to the hospital, which thankfully was only 3 blocks away, instead of to the restaurant we were planning to eat breakfast at. And so we got there, and this was even just a few minutes later than when I had really first started feeling like maybe something was happening. But by the time we were there, I was already pretty uncomfortable. And when we got there, I told them that I needed to get checked in really quickly because my last few babies have come really quickly. And so if this actually is labor, then I'm gonna need help like right away. So thankfully they did check us in really quickly, and probably just like 15 minutes later, I was in a bed and they were checking me and I was already 5 centimeters dilated. So at that point they said, "We are not gonna even try to stop it because you're too far along." And at that point I also was pretty uncomfortable. After that, I was in labor for just about an hour, and then I was fully dilated and ready to push, and I pushed 1.5 times, and then we had a baby. And he was 6 weeks early, and that was rather worrisome. But thankfully, he is 100% fine and didn't have any of the complications that he could have had from being a preemie. They sent us to the NICU at a different hospital for what ended up being a 10-day stay as they waited for him to be taking in enough calories. But he was able to nurse basically from day one, which is a huge blessing. And he learned how to nurse like just as easily and quickly as my full-term babies ever did. And so he just did really well. They kept him in the NICU because they had like a feeding tube in him, and they wanted to be giving him extra calories as he was learning to nurse, because even though he learned to nurse quite quickly, because he was a preemie, they said that they wanted to make sure he had those calories for his brain to continue to be able to develop properly, and because he doesn't have like the brown fat stores that a full-term baby would normally have. So they just didn't want him to have any dip in his nutrition as he's trying to develop basically. But his lungs were fully developed, and yeah, just everything about him was completely fine and basically completely the same as if he would have been full term, just super tiny. He was 4 pounds 5 ounces when he was born, When we checked out of the hospital 10 days later, of course, his weight had like dipped and then come back up, and he was at 4 pounds 7 ounces. I took him to the doctor for his first appointment just 2 days later, and he already was up to 4 pounds 10 ounces. And then when he was 2 weeks old, we weighed him and he was up to 5 pounds. So he's doing super well. Like I said, his name is Ezra, and I just wanted you guys to meet him. Maybe I'll move him a little closer to the camera so you can see him. As you can see, he's asleep right now. He sleeps most of the time, but he does wake up a fair amount. Like, he wakes up every 3 hours to eat, and after he eats or before he eats, he's often awake for up to an hour or two at a time, although that only happens a few times a day, and we're trying to get him to sleep just as much as he can so that he can do that development that he needs. But obviously, it is a little scary and stressful to have a baby so early, and so that's not ideal, of course. But aside from that fact, everything else went so amazingly smoothly. The hospital only being literally 3 blocks away from where we were staying. The fact that because we were out of town, we already had childcare for our other kids who were back at home. We were already packed for a short trip. Everything about him is so just perfect and not problematic at all. And so I just praise God for all of his blessings and all the little miracles that happened throughout this whole situation. And yeah, I'm just so thankful that everything worked out so smoothly, and yeah, and for all the support that we got from so many people. Like, we ended up being gone for the first couple days completely, and then I was gone for most of those 10 days staying with him at the NICU, and family really stepped in and helped take care of our kids, which we appreciated so much. Anyway, I just wanted you guys to meet him and know what's up in my personal life, and so you guys can be praying for me if you are believers yourselves. And I so appreciate all of your support, and if there's any like blips in videos, any weeks without videos, now you know why. I already have several videos pre-filmed because I was planning to have a baby, just not quite so soon. So there probably won't be much of an interruption in the videos. And also, don't worry if you keep seeing videos every week. I'm not showing up here and filming videos every single week at all. I'm mostly just hanging out with the baby, doing some tiny little bits of work just to finish up some projects that weren't quite done since he came so early. But those videos were pre-filmed, so I hope that you guys enjoy them, and I'll be back really soon with some fresh content as well. And thank you all again so much.